Yo, what's happening? Back again with another great episode of the Too Tall Sports podcast. Thank you for joining me today. They're always great, aren't they? Yes, they are. Today, my interview in a few minutes is going to be with Andrew, aka Drano Lano. He's a 25-year PGA Tour pro. Actually, he's a caddy, excuse me. He's a 25-year PGA Tour caddy. And he joins me to talk about all kinds of stuff. I'll give you the intro in a few minutes, but it's a great episode. We talk a lot of golf. So if you're a golf fan, talk a lot about that. He's also in the Maine Golf Hall of Fame, originally from Maine. So really cool stuff with Drano Lano today. So you'll enjoy that. But my 2 cents today, of course, it's Super Bowl week. So let's talk about the Super Bowl. And then I want to hit on a little bit on the NBA trade deadline. Don't want to go too long here today, but I got to give you a little bit of stuff. So this is the second time in NFL history and consecutively in years last year and this year. So the first time ever, the last 2 seasons, the home team has gotten the Super Bowl played at their stadium. Last year it was Tampa. They won the Super Bowl at home. This year the Rams get the Super Bowl coincidentally at SoFi, and they're in it. And I like the Rams to win this game. I know it's not any surprise here. They're favored by 4.5. So I do like the Rams. It's a safe bet. I don't know if they're going to cover the 4.5. Don't quote me on the 4.5. The Bengals have been playing very tight games. It looked like last 2 weeks ago, if you remember, they were going to get blown out, and they didn't. And they came back and won and barely gave up. I think they gave up a field goal in the second half against the Chiefs, and they ended up winning. And they have a really good field goal kicker as well. I think this game is probably going to be like 23-20 Rams, possibly. I think it'll be tight. Lower scoring. I think the Rams defense is going to be all over the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line, which you can't fix in 2 weeks. Let's just be real. You can't fix all that stuff. The Tennessee Titans sacked Burrow 9 times. I don't think they've seen anybody like Aaron Donald all season, or Von Miller, or Leonard Floyd, or Jalen Ramsey on the outside. I think there's too much veteran leadership on the field and on the sidelines. This is Sean McVay's second Super Bowl go-around. I think he'll know much more about how to handle this, how to prepare better. You got a young kind of team of destiny on the other side in Cincinnati. I know Joe Burrow, people that are picking them are picking Burrow because he's Joe Cool and he doesn't get fazed by anything and he just makes it happen. And they're picking the old team of destiny idea, right? They're meant to win. I don't know why. It's a team of fate. So that's why people are picking Cincinnati. No one thinks they're actually better than the Rams, right? Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp are on fire. Odell Beckham Jr. has been hot lately. Like I said, the defense has been really, really good. It's hard for me to pick against the Rams and the veteran leadership on both sides of the ball, and the fact that Cincinnati is super young and their offensive line is bad. So give me the Rams to win the Super Bowl. The safest bet, obviously, is Rams money line. I think it's right now minus 200. Not a great bet, but if you want a safe play, Rams to win outright, not cover. I mean, they may cover the 4.5 points. I don't know. But by the time Saturday comes around, the line may change. Who knows? But I just think the Rams are too good. They got past their arch rival, the Niners, which they almost didn't. Again, people forget Stafford almost threw that pick to Tart, who dropped the ball, and that could have changed the game. And Jimmy Garoppolo is just not a very good quarterback. So, they did get away with some stuff, but I just don't see Cincinnati coming into LA and winning this game. But you never know. Should be an exciting matchup, regardless if we didn't get Chiefs-Rams. That would have been the high-flying matchup. But I think it'll still be a good game. I did want to get to some NBA trade deadline stuff. I know Thursday when this drops, is the real trade deadline. But, what happened on Tuesday, when you have a team like Portland, who they say now, so if you didn't see, they traded CJ McCollum away to New Orleans and Larry Nance and Tony Snell for Josh Hart, Thomas Satoransky, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Didi Louzada, 2022 first-round pick, which is protected, and 2 future second-round picks. This is a huge trade for Portland, but also for the Pelicans. Let me start with the Pelicans first. They are now trying to build a somewhat of a big three down there. You got Brandon Ingram, former Laker, and you got now CJ McCollum, who's a 20-point scorer this year, just normal average, player. He's above average player, shooting 38% from 3 for his career. They need some shooting. And when Zion Williamson, if he ever comes back healthy, they will have a mini big three down in New Orleans. Now, as far as Portland goes, I don't know what they're doing. They say they're going to reshape the roster around Damian Lillard. What have they been doing for the last 9 years? This was a nice run they had with Lillard and McCollum. Both small school guys. They made it to a Western Conference Finals a couple of years ago. They've also been eliminated 5 times in the first round. They've taken this group as far as they can go. I think they need to restart, but I think Lillard needs to get out of there. Why stay in Portland? I don't see the benefit of staying in a rebuild. He's all about loyalty. Well, loyalty gets you first round exits and a lot of missed opportunities in your career. Now that he's in his 30s, I don't see why Damian Lillard, who would come to Portland. And by the way, next summer, the big free agent names are all guards. Kyrie Irving, James Harden, John Wall, and Bradley Beal, who just opted for wrist surgery. He's out for the rest of the season. Not a great class of what the Blazers need, which is a big and some wings. They also just traded away Norman Powell, who's a solid role player, and Robert Covington. It seems like they're going full rebuild, even though they just shedded a bunch of salary. Why, if you're Damian Lillard, one of the best players in the league, you're going to stick around for that? I don't understand it. Let me also real quick get to what the Pacers and Kings did. Everybody thought this was a big move. Domantas Sabonis, Arvydas Sabonis' kid, for you folks that don't know about him, 2-time All-Star. He's averaging 19 and 12 a game. Dude's a stud, left-handed big for Indiana, going to Sacramento. And Sacramento is giving away their stud young guy, Tyrese Halliburton, and their sharpshooter, Buddy Hield. I don't get it for Sacramento. You just drafted Halliburton a couple years ago, and he's a star in the making. And then you give up your other best shooter, Buddy Hield. So now they're left with a guy that I like, De'Aaron Fox, who's underperforming right now, but they gave him the big money, the point guard for Sacramento. And you got Harrison Barnes, who's a good scorer, but you really don't have much outside of that now. And Sabonis is going to be an upgrade for a big. But the Kings, they just have a history, I had to look this up, of just blowing draft picks. And they finally get one right with Halliburton. They give him up. They passed up on guys in the last 15 years. They passed up on Steph Curry. They passed up on Klay Thompson. They passed up on Luka Doncic a couple years ago for Marvin Bagley, who clearly was a miss. And they also passed up on Sabonis, the guy they just traded for 5 years ago, for Marquise Chris, who's a journeyman and barely in the league. The Kings like to mess this up. Their talent evaluators are not very good. And I don't see the plan there. They couldn't figure it out with Boogie Cousins to build around him, to build a winner when they had him. The Kings they're just a sorry franchise. They're basically the Detroit Lions of the NBA. That's what they are. So I don't know what's going on there. And by the way, both of these teams, Indiana and Sacramento, they're 13th in their respective conferences. They're playing for the play-in game, like a 10 or a 9 seed. These teams are not championship built. They're not going anywhere. Now, Indiana does have some young, good guards now with Duarte, the kid from Oregon. They got Malcolm Brogdon. They have now Halliburton and Hield, and they're maybe committing now to the big man, Miles Turner, who, when he gets back from injury, should be formidable at the center position. So Indiana's trying to build something. I get it, but neither of these teams are even close to contending for a championship. So yes, it was a semi-big move, but in grand scheme of things, not really. These teams aren't going anywhere. So who knows what it'll hold for? Exciting trade deadline on Thursday. I think there are some still big pieces that need to move in the NBA. I guess we'll find out and see what happens by the time you guys are listening to this. There might be some big deals happening on Thursday for the trade deadline. So I will say this, enjoy the Super Bowl. I'm going to say it, go Rams. It'd be really cool to have the Lakers, Dodgers, and Rams all win championships within a 3-year window. Doesn't happen very often. So it would be great for the city. It would start a whole new fan base of Rams fans, I think, that would really grab onto this team. And it should be an exciting game. So I think the Rams will win. Careful with your bets. Be responsible. But I do think the Rams will win. So enjoy the Super Bowl. And I'll talk to you guys all about it next week for our next episode. But enjoy the interview. And it's coming up right now. What's going on? Welcome back to another great interview and episode I have today for you. And this is a fun one. I haven't had a PGA Tour caddy on yet, and I'm really happy about this one. He's Andy Drano Lano, Andy Lano, but they call him Drano because he used to make and drain some putts back in the day when he was a golfer. So really cool to get him on. We talk about his, life going to Western Kentucky. He's originally from Maine. He's in the Maine Golf Hall of Fame. We talk about that. He went to school with Kenny Perry, who's became a future PGA Tour player, and being a caddy for him, Tom Watson, Nick Faldo, Michelle Wie, all these people that he was caddy for. And I run through a bunch of golfers too in this episode, guys, talking about Tiger, Phil Mickelson, John Daly, and just his stories that he has about these guys. So this is a cool episode for golf fans out there, and just sports fans in general. He's a huge sports guy, so from that New England area. So this is a cool one. So with my guy Andy Lano, aka Drano. As always, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. That's on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter at Too Tall Sports. Check out my YouTube channel. You can watch all the interviews because I do them on Zoom, and then I put the video up so you can watch all the interviews if you want to see us talk. So go ahead and subscribe, like it, share it, whatever you want to do. Write a comment. That'd be awesome. So just check out Too Tall Sports Podcast on YouTube. We drop episodes every Thursday morning at around 5 a.m. Pacific time. So that's when they're posted. But please check those out. I'm also on TikTok for you youngins out there at Too Tall Sports Podcast, doing a lot of video series. I'm bringing them over to Instagram as well. So talking about my minor league days. So some fun videos there. For the audio side of things, check out Apple Podcasts. Just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast. I remind you guys every episode, if you haven't hit the 5 stars yet, please scroll down on my page on Apple. And it's on Spotify now too. Hit the 5 stars if you can on the main page when you find my my show, and hit a 5 star. And also, if you can, comment or leave a review. That's awesome as well. So please do those things to help the show. So I mentioned Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Play, Pandora, wherever you get your podcasts or you listen to your shows. Just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast and you'll find us there. And with that, I give you my interview with Andy Lano. All right, welcome back to the Too Tall Sports Podcast. My next guest is a former PGA Tour caddy for 25 years. He's been to over 40 majors. He was most notably the man on the bag for Kenny Perry on the tour, amongst others like Tom Watson, Peter Jacobsen, Michelle Wie, Nick Faldo, and many others during his career. He played golf with Kenny Perry at Western Kentucky. He's from the state of Maine and is also in the Maine Golf Hall of Fame, which we will talk about a little bit later. And he's here to tell us about his life and great golf stories from his career. He is Andy Lano, a.k.a. Drano Lano. What's going on, man?
Hey, Brett. Hey, doing great. Appreciate being on the show, and, looking forward to sharing some fun stuff.
Definitely, man. I was telling you pre-show, I had a lot to get to with you, and so many. You've seen a lot in your career, but I do want to start in the beginning of your career. And you were actually a really good golfer. So I wanted to ask you about your early days playing golf. How'd you get your start in it? I know I did listen to some other shows that you were on from, years of your dad kind of putting the club in your hand. So tell us about your early golf life.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, really. My dad was a very competitive guy in sports, and he played all 3 sports himself. Actually was drafted in the major leagues, but drafted by the Indians. But he really put sports around all of us kids. That included my sisters, Melody and Maureen, John, and we just got started that way. I started out just with the major sports back when I was young. It was just baseball, basketball, and football, really. And then golf was kind of something that happened in the summer. Really, it was a very short season up in Maine. So
right,
clubs in my hand, and it was my release from playing baseball. I was a really hard, pretty decent baseball player and was really playing a lot of baseball in the summer, but it was great to get away and play golf. A little bit of a different deal out by yourself, as you know. And, 3 years old, Dad put clubs in my hand, and the next thing you know, we're playing, in our major every year, which is the father-son. We always looked forward to that. It was a big deal in Maine. Maine State Golf Association put it on every year. Alternate shot. So that's where it all started, and it was a great thing. Golf is a wonderful thing, as you know, and I was glad that my dad started me at such a young age.
For sure. And real quick, and obviously, I played baseball, so I had to ask you about before we get to all the golf stuff. You obviously grew up a New England sports fan, Red Sox, Patriots, all that stuff. So the Red Sox had some moments during your early life, but then 2004 was when they finally broke through. I know you had some heartbreaks, I think in '86. I forget, there's maybe one earlier, right?
Yeah, 75.
75.
I mean, there was some close calls. The Reds smacked us a couple times, and then obviously the Mets got us. And like you said, being a young kid in New England, lots and lots of Red Sox fans, man. And we didn't get there. But I can tell you that when we did 2004, it was special.
Yeah, no, I bet for sure. You guys waited a long time for that. As far as your high school career, I think I saw you say your high school team was actually pretty good, and you may have won a state championship while you were there. What do you remember about your high school days, and like what kind of player were you in high school compared to the other kids in your age group?
Well, I mean, yeah, we did win the state championship in my junior year. Had a great team. You obviously took, back in the day, you had to use you had 5 players and you used 4 out of the 5. So, one guy couldn't really carry the team in the way they had, high school golf set up in Maine. So, I mean, the seasons were different. The golf started out, it was in the spring normally, and then it got switched to the fall long after I left. But I mean, I just happened to, hop in there, and we played match play, and then of course you had to medal to qualify for the states and all that kind of thing. And I mean, I qualified as a freshman. I went to the New England Juniors, which only 6 players in the state go to that tournament from Maine. So, but it was all done by qualifying in match play. So anyway, it was a good run for me. I was very competitive with it. I had to give up baseball, which hurt. I can tell you, because I loved it, but it was a choice I had to make, and that's what I went with.
Sure. And then so you end up at Western Kentucky for college golf. And, what kind of interest were you getting out of high school? Was that the only offer you may have had, or, what was the recruiting process for you coming out of high school?
Honestly, there was hardly any. I mean, back in the day, for me, it was more about, the schools that you applied to. And then all of a sudden they say, oh, really? You play golf? Yeah, we'd love to have you on the team. Western Kentucky actually had a very close friend of mine that I used to play a lot of basketball with, an alumni, and he directed me down to Western. They asked to send resumes down there. There wasn't anything to look at except a pamphlet.
Sure.
Coach invited me down and said, look, he said, I don't have any money. He goes, but you're welcome to come down. And if you can walk on, you can be on the team. You'll have an opportunity to walk on. So I took the swing knowing it was down south and that it's a longer golf season, and it worked out.
Gotcha. And I want to get your nickname story back in there. And I'm assuming you got it before you went to college?
Yeah, it happened more probably in the junior golf days, playing, at the club. I grew up at Riverside Golf Club, which is a municipal golf course in Portland, Maine, one of the oldest actually. And we had a group of us play out there, and we used to go and play. I wasn't a great striker, but I could get it up and down around the greens. And, I started making a lot of putts and being really good at putting because I had to. I was putting for pars a lot. So anyway, you're not supposed to be putting for pars, but anyway, I was, and I would make, throw in some birdies too. And one day this kid said, hey, he goes, you're draining everything. I'm going to start calling you Drano Lano. And it stuck.
That's a pretty sweet name, man, especially for putting. And eventually probably why you became a great caddy, because you can read greens and you can judge speed and distance and all that. So that's pretty cool that you had that. While you're at Western Kentucky, you got to play with your future, I guess, the player that you caddied for the most, which is Kenny Perry. Tell us about your time at Western Kentucky with him, what kind of player he was in college, and kind of how you guys all meshed together there.
Yeah, it was an interesting deal for me because I went blind down to Western Kentucky. I mean, the only thing I looked at was pamphlets. We didn't have all this, stuff that they have now. So my parents said, hey, you want to go down there? We loaded up the car. We drove it 1,200 miles. God rest their souls. And they were great supporters. And we got there and got on and I was able to try out and get on the team. And then all of a sudden I meet this guy, Kenny Perry, who I read in the pamphlet, this guy's a pretty good player, and so on and so forth. And Kenny was very solid player, obviously very good. Ironically, never won a college golf tournament, if you can believe that. I mean, I think that his best finish, he had a couple seconds or whatever. I remember he was run up to a guy named Joey Sindelar once, but I mean, we had a really solid team there. Outside of Kenny, we had some very good players from New York, Oregon, and it was a great group of guys. A lot of them are still my great friends today. And the irony of it all, for me to catch back up with Kenny a few years later and turn around and be next to him while he was playing, professionally was really quite amazing when I look back at it, because we used to sit there in the dorm. That's all Kenny would say. He goes, I'm going to be on the PGA Tour someday. And everybody would look around, go get him. I mean, we don't have any doubts. So, yeah, he was a great leader and a terrific guy to have on the team. And it was a great experience.
So it sounds like he was kind of a late bloomer. Is that what he was?
Well, I mean, statistically, if you want to say that, I mean, he was a couple of years ahead of me. And after he graduated, I know he went down and he tried several times to get his card. I'm going to say 6 or 7 times. And in the meantime, he was down on what they called the Space Coast Tour down in Florida. And he was winning all over the place down there while he was doing it. So, excuse me. So he made his way. I mean, he made his way. I would say, yeah, he was a late bloomer when it comes to posting the W's, because once he got there, he sure did well, and he did well in the Champions Tour, and he's a great player.
Sure.
For themselves.
Definitely. Now, so he decides to go to Q school and try to make it on tour. When you realized you weren't going to be a PGA Tour player, what happened next for you, and how did you stumble into caddying?
So that reverted back to, me just being, as a kid, I used to caddy on weekends to make money. I mean, there's only a couple of ways you could make money back in my day. You had to shovel driveways or caddy. That was it. And it was all cash. It was a good business.
Yeah.
That's the way you could get some money in your pocket.
Sure.
You can buy some stuff, whatever. But so I continued to caddy. And when the pros, they used to have some satellite events come to my course there, which I knew very well. And all of us players, we'd all want to get with the pros, and we want to see, hey, let's see how the pros are doing it. So I made friends with Brian Clare. He was from Tampa, Florida. He came up one year, and I became really friendly with him. And he kept coming up because he was aspiring to be on the tour as well. And then he finally made it out on the tour right about the time that I was in transition to where I just couldn't get good enough to really play for money. And I called him up and I said, hey, I'd like to come out and caddy on tour. Do you know anybody? Well, he did know somebody, and I packed my bags in '87, went out to the Phoenix Open, and the rest was history from there.
I was going to ask you about the Phoenix Open. I believe you said that was the first one they ever had in Phoenix, right? So how was it, then compared to, obviously it's a crazy party now, but what do you remember about that Phoenix Open?
So the party now, try to imagine this. It was under a tent with 2,000 people. That was it. It was it was put on by the Thunderbirds out there. I mean, it was just a small deal. And it was more of an invite only to the interior, the caddies, the players, their wives, the sponsors, etc. Peter Jacobson, Payne Stewart, Mark Rinker, they would play up there, their group, and it was, they would have some fun. And it was all because the Thunderbirds, they really mixed it up well with all the players. They did now. Or they did then, and they do now. They're a very popular group for all the tour players. But for it to morph into what it is now, and I tell people that, I was there in '87 when the thing, that was the first year TPC opened. It was just a couple thousand people partying. Now it's like as football game.
Right. Now, when was the last Phoenix Open you were at?
Let's see. For me, that would have been 2012.
Okay, so it was starting to come along into that, and you started to see the beginning of what it is now.
Yeah, they hadn't turned it into a full stadium yet. They were just warming up behind the tee with
sure
grandstands and all that, and the noise and all that kind of thing. They were more allowing that, and the players were more accepted to it at first. Believe it or not, they weren't big fans. I mean, guys are out there, they're trying to make cuts. It's early in the year. You're going to have a reshuffle, and it's important to make a cut. And you got these people screaming and yelling. So at first it was kind of, geez, what is this? But then it actually worked its way to where now, I mean, as you know, it's its own special place there for, 180 yards or whatever it is when you got to run through there every day.
Right. No, yeah, I still haven't been yet. I do want to go. It seems like a crazy, fun atmosphere to be at, but anyway, it's crazy, the evolution over the years. I did want to talk about the first time you and Kenny got together, Kenny Perry, on the tour, because you guys kind of went your separate ways for a few years while he was making it. And then I believe it was at the first big moment for you two was at the Memorial, Jack Nicklaus's course, of course, Muirfield Village in Ohio. You had a great story about Kenny being on fire that weekend, but still came to you at a crucial moment during the round. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, a funny backstory of that. So Kenny, he was out there. That was his fifth. That was my fifth year caddying. So I kind of cut my teeth, learning my craft. I caddied for Jim Carter, a very good player, qualified the same year as Kenny, etc. And I'd see Kenny around, and I hopped in maybe here or there and helped him a week. But he had a caddy, and we just stayed friends. And then the opening came in '91, and I said, sure, I'll hop in there. So a couple weeks before, the fifth week or something, I'm caddying for him in Atlanta down there, and we're in this big rain delay and it was long days, whatever, and we had to get back in position the next day, and I overslept. So now I'm racing to the golf course, and we're in position, and I'm parking my car, and they're already out there on the course. Kenny's looking around, and I'm not there, and I got the walk of shame. I got out there, and he just kind of looks at me, and it was a total accident. I mean, I just was flat exhausted and overslept. And, we played that week. But I mean, the story was, he just kind of bare with it, that it was a mistake. And, it went by. 2 weeks later, we're up there at Muirfield, fast forward. And here he is on Friday, and he's lighting it up at Muirfield Village. We get to the 16th tee that day. And like I've said before, it's one of those days we just stay out of the pros' way. I was doing my thing. He was doing his thing. I gave him the number. He pulled a 5-iron out on number 16 there at Muirfield. And he was right in the middle of his routine. And all of a sudden, he just looked up at me, and I was 10 feet away. And he asked me if I liked the club. And I looked at him. I said, I really think you can get the 6 there. So he didn't hesitate. He walked over and he put the 5-iron back in, took out the 6, put this beautiful swing on the 6-iron, 2 bounces in the hole for a hole-in-one.
Wow.
Wow. And he just jumped. He jumped from 7 to 9 under, and now he's like, getting ready to. I mean, he's tied. He's tying the course record. He's actually breaking the course record with the shot. Pars the last 2 holes, breaks the course record, and then goes on to take out Hale Irwin in an extra hole for his first PGA Tour victory.
That's pretty awesome, man. What a moment for both of you guys.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's the way I caddied, and that's the way he expected you. You could get asked at any time. I mean, we teamed pretty well. Obviously, he knew I could play, I was good around the greens and putting and chipping and all that. So, I mean, he had a little bit of a video in college, so he was confident in my golf ability and my golf knowledge. But you have to be ready out there as a PGA Tour caddy. Your guy, you got to know him, and you got to be ready. And I was, and it's all instinct and feel, and that's what happened that day.
Sure. And every golfer you caddy for is different. So like you said, it was one of those days where you had to stay out of the way. What's the balance there where is it just instinct? Like, hey, I need to step in here, just knowing the guy over time? Or how does it work for you when it's like, should I tell him what club to use here or leave him alone? How do you deal with that?
Oh, for me, the rule I used is, unless it was really, really bad, unless they asked, I never really jumped in. Every player, you're right, is different. And with each player, where you can kind of quote unquote, some players, even if the club was wrong, they didn't want to know, or they you just don't know. These guys are so creative and just don't know what they have in their mind. They can do lots of things with a golf ball. So but for the most part, for me, I was there to support whoever that was. And I had to, like you said, I had to figure that out, how they wanted to work that. And it always worked out pretty good for me because I wasn't scared, and I was very confident in my ability to try to help the pro, ultimately get the right shot or get where he needs to go.
Sure. I've heard you talk about when you're on the greens, I believe you said you're not allowed to putt yourself when you're walking the course or whatever, but you can roll the balls out and see kind of the breaks. Like, so what's like your routine leading up to a tournament when you get there? Is it, Monday through Thursday? What do you do on those days to get ready for the tournament?
Well, for the first thing for me is obviously you get the yardage figured out. Obviously the books are very good. They weren't always as good as they were now. And now they've had a reversion back. That's a whole nother story. But what I would do is I would have my numbers. And then, with the greens, I would spend some time roll to, where you would guess pins would be. And you could make those notes, in your book. And I would do that. but it was more about just charting the slopes. I had a pretty good feel and a pretty good eye for putting anyway, but it always helped to, know that a putt may go a certain way, because when the chips are down come Sunday, you just don't know. You want to try to have those edges, and that's what the old style caddies did. All the great ones, they got out there, and when their guy asked them, you had to be ready.
Sure, definitely. You've also caddied, I mentioned some of the names at the top that are notable, like Tom Watson, Nick Faldo, Peter Jacobson, Ches Reavie, and Michelle Wee West. Also, if you had to talk about, a little bit about maybe each one or your experiences with some of those people, what was it like for you to work with those guys outside of Kenny Perry?
Well, Tom Watson was my idol growing up. He was my favorite golfer. I love Donald Palmer, but, Tom Watson was my guy. And when Bruce Edwards, who I was friends with, he went to work for Greg Norman back in the early 90s. And, so he basically became sort of Tom's caddy master. And Tom was looking for someone, a couple of weeks. He was trying out some people for the Masters that year in 91, ironically, the year that I ended up winning with Kenny. And I got a chance to caddy for him at Phoenix and Pebble Beach, his favorite golf course. And that was an absolute thrill. What I learned from him, and he was fast, you had to be ready. He was a fast walker, but man, he had a different sound. And it was amazing the way that he took apart a hole, from the tee. He wanted to know where the pin was. And he was just that good. He could strike much, put it where he wanted to. So that was awesome to caddy for him. In the first week, we were tied for the lead with one hole to go. He made like a 15-footer on the last hole, or we would have had a 3-way playoff. So that was really exciting stuff. I'll never forget it. And my buddy that caddies from Nolan Henke, I still let him know, hey, dude, what were you thinking? But anyway, it all worked out. Michelle Wheat, that was a tremendous experience. She was terrific. Really, really amazing how brave she was. her talent was incredible. For her to go out and play against the guys, I can tell you that is not easy.
Sure. And
they hired me to, to kind of, be out there with her, and her talent was off the charts. At 16 years old, I would shake my head every day. Couldn't believe how terrific she was. Thrilled and really enjoyed the travel that I got to, that I was fortunate to have with the Wees, and they were great. Ches Reavie was, that was a time where, again, Peter Costas, a guy from Maine, who I knew, obviously, the CBS, and happened to see him at the club in an off week when I didn't have a job. And he's like, hey, what are you doing? I go, well, I'm looking for somebody, this, that, whatever. Well, and he's teaching Ches Reavie. He calls Ches Reavie, gets me a tryout with Ches Reavie, and 4 weeks later, win the Canadian Open. 463rd in the world. Nobody really knew who he was. And now all of a sudden he wins the Canadian Open, 5th oldest tournament on the PGA Tour. So, it was a great ball striker. And he was very good on the Corn Ferry Tour, but he was, cutting his teeth out there, and someone like myself actually probably helped him a little bit with my valuable, knowledge and wisdom. And he was on go that week. He took down Anthony Kim at his best, and Mike Weir making runs at him, and beat him by 3. So it was a great, great win for Ches. And then, of course, I caddied for Faldo 3 weeks, and that was really interesting. I caddied for him at Bay Hill, TPC, and the Masters. I'm thinking, wow, this guy's I'm gonna be able to figure out how to, caddy at the Masters, because this guy at that point, he'd won 3 times, and very, very detailed, and wanted everything just like so. You could understand after spending the time around him how he won 6 majors, and how good and how focused he was, and just an amazing striker and very precise player. So it was a thrill to get to learn from all those people. Brought something, and they all got to it in a different way, but they're all great champions.
That's pretty incredible, man. You've had a great career doing it. And you brought up guys that are, maybe swing coaches or working with some players. I've always been curious, as a former player yourself, what's the dynamic between the swing coach and the player, and you and the player? When, do you let them do their thing and then you handle everything else? Or how does it work between swing coaches, caddies, and players?
So again, that's a very different deal or whatever. So for Kenny, he knew that I had a good eye. And, he would, I'd say, hey, you might have a little something here. And he would trust my eyes, like for Kenny Perry. So then some of the others, they would, you would sit there and listen to the lesson that the pro would give. And of course, he can't be out there all the time. And then you would be like a second sounding board. And then they would say, hey, you remember what he said? So on and so forth. He goes, yeah, he wanted you to get your left foot down over here or whatever. So it would be more like a kind of like a recording kind of thing for me to kind of, absorb that knowledge and be there with something that the pro, the pro or the player may miss, because basically all they want to do is go out and try to play the game. So, I mean, they don't want to deal with all that other stuff. I mean, they have to deal with it, but once they get up there, they want to be able to play. So, I never really got into it unless I was asked. That was always my rule. If they said, hey, what does this look like? I would say, because I have a pretty good eye, I could look at a pro and say, you got something going on here on the back of your backswing. But if they didn't ask me, I'm not gonna volunteer the information.
Gotcha. Okay. I was just curious because maybe sometimes you may not agree with what the swing coach is saying. And you're like, no, I know this guy. He should swing this way or whatever. You know what I mean? That's what I was kind of thinking.
Yeah, I do. And I learned a long time ago that I didn't get involved with any of that, because those two generally have, their own relationship. And my job was to caddy.
Sure.
You're last out there and you're going to be good at your deal. You kind of just stay in your lane, so to speak, unless asked otherwise.
Sure.
Great ones do that. They really do. I mean, you can go down, there's a long list of them. And I would say most all of them would probably use that golden rule.
Gotcha. Okay. I wanted to ask you about some players now, because I'm always, you're on tour, you're around these guys a lot. So of course I want to start with Tiger Woods. You got to watch him in the beginning in the mid 90s. And I did hear you say you always thank him every time you're a player and you won a tournament because of what he means to golf. So if you could just, maybe describe what you remember about Tiger in the 90s and also what he's done for golf that helped you as well.
Well, I mean, I was fortunate enough to, to be out there with, when he obviously hit the scene in the mid 90s and right from the get go. And it was amazing to see what he brought to golf. And, fast forward when, my player used to win, I used to go up to Tiger and say, hey, Tiger, and because he was necessarily on my schedule, I'd say, hey, thanks a lot. And he'd kind of look at it and you go, for what? I go, well, last week my guy won $1 million. I won 100K. I mean, that's because of you, and I appreciate it. And he would just kind of look at you with a wry smile, and he was very modest about the whole thing, really. But it's not just me that he did it for. We can sit here and go down a shopping list of golf pros, caddies, whatever. He elevated the game. I mean, he moves the needle no more. I mean, there's nobody that moves it more than he does.
Sure.
Everything, all the people that he brought to the game that wouldn't even think of either watching golf or playing golf, it's amazing. And not just in the United States, but as you know, worldwide. So, I have a great appreciation for the things I have today, as do many, many other caddies. They still have Arnold Palmer, and they still have Nicklaus, and they still have Lee Trevino, and they still have all those others that laid the groundwork too. You can't forget about them. But I mean, when the money started getting really crazy out here with all these purses, Tiger was the one that brought it.
Sure. And were you ever, I'm sure you were in his group a couple times where you got to be real close with him. Like when you watched him play golf, what was the difference back then that he was so far ahead of everybody else?
His mental toughness. I mean, he was so mentally strong. Like it was amazing. Like you would be out there with him. He didn't even see you or anything. All he saw was the ball in the hole, and he knew what he had to do. And that was pretty much it. I mean, his focus was, incredible. And obviously that speaks for, 82 wins and, 15 majors and everything else that he's ever done. But it was incredible. And even when things weren't going great, his mental strength to rally, even when he didn't have his best stuff, that's what made him great. He won tournaments when he didn't have his best stuff. Most of the pros out there, they have to have their best stuff when they win. And Tiger could do it with his best stuff, as you saw people away back in 2001, or he could do it in other ways too when he didn't have his best stuff, because he was that strong mentally and he just knew how to get it in the hole fast.
That's crazy. That's awesome. You got to watch him up close. I want to kind of go to the opposite of Tiger and ask you about John Daly just randomly because I thought of a golfer from back in the day. I don't know how much interaction you had from him, but you know, a lot of people I've heard say he's got some of the most raw talent on the tour, but he just didn't have the work ethic. And obviously he had issues off the course and whatnot. He just didn't come from the structured background that Tiger did. What can you tell us about John Daly, maybe back in the day, or stuff that you know about him and what you thought of him as a golfer?
Incredible. I love JD. I mean, he's one of the guys. I mean, he always was friendly with the caddies, and I can tell you his talent level is off the charts. I mean, a set of hands I've seen out there in my time. I mean, I was there in '91 at Crooked Stick when he was the 9th alternate, and he whipped it in his van without a practice round, and he used Nick Price's caddy, who was a great caddy, God rest his soul, Tweaky Medlin, and he won that week and came out of nowhere. But I can tell you, talent was incredible. Eye coordination to do what he does with his swing is incredible, and it really gets discounted because of maybe some of the other things that he had going on
right
in his life. But I mean, I enjoyed John. I mean, he's won 2 majors. I mean, he could have won more maybe, but you know what? He's a great player, and people never really understand how good he is unless you go back and watch him.
Yeah, and he kind of got some revenge recently, and not in a real tournament, but he and his son beat Tiger and Charlie in that tournament. I thought that was kind of cool for him, at least.
It was. I was pulling for him. I love John's son, Little John, or he's Big John now, but
yeah,
man, tremendous golf swing. And I'm like, man, that kid can smash it. Excuse me. And JD, you know, JD, the one thing JD, he's not scared of anybody. He never has been. And I'm not saying that he would be scared that day.
Sure.
And, you know, it was so and Tiger make their run. And I mean, it was, it brought me back to the days when I used to play, you know, the father-son with my dad, and to watch all that come together. It was great TV, but I was really glad for JD. That's a thrilling day for him and his son. And you're going to read more about his son. I really believe he's going to be a terrific player.
Yeah, it seems like he's got a bright future in golf. Same with Charlie Woods, man. I can't believe at 11 or 12, how do you have that swing already at that age?
You know what? The apple didn't fall far from the tree. Yeah. I call it genes.
It's
genes
definitely
what it is, man. I mean, he's practicing. I got to give him credit, but man, he's got it. And you know, putting. Talk about putting. I was telling someone, and I said this, you know, the other day. I go, it was like video games for him. He was just pressing a button, knocking these 12-footers in, just. And that was it was really beautiful to watch, and I know it had to really probably make Tiger really proud to see that.
For sure. And he seems like he's got more of a fun personality than Tiger too. So maybe he'll handle the media better. Who knows? I mean, I know Tiger seems like he's trying to hold him back a little bit, like from the stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah, his kid, I mean, poor kid. I mean, he's got a lot to take on, you know, and he's only 12, you know.
Right.
You know, like I said, leave the kid alone, let him have some fun or whatever. It's never going to be that way. But,
sure.
I mean, he is, I mean, he's got the guts of a bird. This guy's incredible.
Yeah.
Doing out there. And again, that's the beauty of golf. The golf ball has no idea how old you are. And you know what? If you can get it in the hole fast, that's what it's all about.
For sure. I want to ask you about another, you know, star on tour that's been around a long time. It's Phil Mickelson. You know, he's kind of a scientist. I've heard him just describe and break down like different grains and which way the grass is growing and all this crazy stuff. But his short game's unbelievable. He's been good for a long time. Any stories about Phil or what your thoughts are on him?
Oh, Phil, I mean, again, you know, when we talk about hands, you're not going to find, I mean, he's probably top 3 that I've ever seen. I mean, I've seen Watson, seen him, Daly. I mean, but Phil's imagination is incredible. And he started it at a young age. And I tell people all the time, no matter how in golf, it's still about feel and imagination. And Phil has that. And I mean, it's incredible the stuff that he can do with, you know, with a golf ball. And he studies it, like you said, in a different way. You know, it's an interesting story. You know, back in 2009, I believe. I was caddying for Kevin Chappell at the U.S. Open there at Congressional. I think it was 2011, when Rory won his first Open. We blew him out at Congressional. I believe it was 11. Yeah, it was 2011. Anyway, so we're out with Phil on the final day, and we're chatting. And, at that time, I'm going to say Phil's in his low 40s or whatever, and he's still going good or whatever. Somehow we came up to the Champions Tour, and, Phil's okay, the Champions Tour. He goes, I'm not playing the Champions Tour. I'm going to be out here. I'm going to be playing here. And I go, oh, all right, Phil. You just don't know. 9 years later, who knows, right? And now he goes out there to the Champions Tour for obvious reasons. He had, went out there to play, sporting the tour, or whatever. He didn't have really, PGA Tour isn't always going to be his first choice, but I know he loves to go out there too. But, it's just golf is crazy. You just really don't know. It's too hard to predict, not only next week, but like 9 years later, you just don't know. Look at Duval. Duval's breaking him out this week. And, it'll be interesting to see what he does, but I can promise you he's probably going to do pretty good out there. Again, one of the best strikers I've ever seen. So it'll be interesting to see what David does out there.
That's funny you bring up that name, because he was like, against Tiger, he had a good run for a little bit, and then he just kind of fell off. I know he had some injuries, and it's crazy how some people, even Rory, like, I'm not sure what the future holds for him. Some of these guys just can't sustain it for whatever reason.
Yeah, it just honestly proves how great Tiger and Nicklaus and these guys that won lots of majors, how long they could do it, for a long period of time. What do they say? Rory hasn't won a major since I think someone said 2014, maybe.
Right.
4 real fast. I think people like, wow, you need to light this place on fire. And then what happened? Well, now it's extremely deep out there. The competition's incredible. The players that are coming up, they're fearless, and it's just a relentless thing. And if you don't have it and you slip up, you get passed. And that's just the way it is. I love Rory. I love his game. I really hope he gets that Masters coming up. And if he doesn't get it this year, I hope he gets it next year. But I still think there's more majors left for Rory.
Gotcha. I think so too. He's still young enough. Speaking of Rory, who's an international player, I know you got to go to the Ryder Cup, which is pretty cool. So I wanted to hear your stories about that. I think the captain at the time was Hal Sutton, and I think you said he was great to you guys and bringing the caddies in, which wasn't always a thing for the Ryder Cup. So how was I think it was 2004, your Ryder Cup experience?
Yeah, I can tell you right off that the result of the week wasn't great, but I can tell you though, everything incredible. Hal really took care of not only the players like he should, but the caddies. He was one of the first to really bring us in. He gave us Cadillac courtesy cars, flew us first class to the tournament. We had presents on our bed every night thanking us for giving our time, and brought us into the locker room, and even gave us a chance to even offer any kind of input into the whole week or whatever. So Hal was first class all the way. He always has been. I felt bad that we couldn't do better for him that week. And even with the lopsided score, the funny thing is when we teed off on Sunday, we actually had a chance to get close and get in with it. But then, it just, if you don't play perfect, it just runs away from you. But it was a tremendous experience. I can tell you that, caddying for your country, it's a different deal than it is when you go out with your pro. You still caddy the same way, but it was a tremendous thrill and privilege for me to be able to do that. And I'm very thankful for, Hal Sutton, the job he did, and obviously the PGA of America. They do a fantastic job every year.
Sure. Staying over there for a second, what was it like? How many British Opens or the Opens have you been to out there?
So I've been to, I haven't been to a lot of those, but I've been to, I went to the year that Ian Baker Finch won, 91. Interesting story there. That was Kenny Perry's first, quote, I still call it the British Open, the Open. So we go over there, and, we play in the Scottish Open first. Everybody says, get over there, get acclimated, all that. So yeah, we go to Scotland, we play, and we do pretty good, top 20 or whatever. And then we make our way over to Birkdale, and don't have a great week there. And, back in the day that, we missed the cut and we're stuck there. So now we got to fly home, etc. And we're going to Hartford the next week. So sure enough, Baker Finch, he rings the bell. Yeah, he was playing great golf at that time. And so we fly into LaGuardia, and we got to catch a puddle jumper into Hartford. So we're sitting there on the plane. The pilot says, we've got, got 3 more to, we're waiting on here, and then we'll be taking off. So sure enough, last 3 people to come on the plane, here comes Ian Finch with his wife and his caddy, and he's got the claret jug. So it's like 25 people on the plane, and he passes the jug around for everybody on the plane to check out on the flight from there to Hartford. So that was, it was kind of a, bittersweet memory, but I'll always remember that. Ian Baker Finch, such a class guy. And, and I didn't have any idea what I had in my hand at the time. When I look back and think, wow, the Clara jug, I mean, that's quite a trophy. It's right up there, obviously, with the Stanley Cup and a few of the others. And to have that and to be able to see all those names was a pretty neat deal.
Sure, definitely. I was just curious if you had been to like St. Andrews or some of those other courses.
Yes. So in '95, I was there when Daly won. And went Andrews and went there, and Kenny was questionable to go, and I had gone over there early, and he wasn't sure if he was going to make it, so I went over and I prepared. So I'm walking out there at St. Andrews, and I'm going, this is the home of golf. I mean, these people are like really into it. They really know their golf and et cetera. And I'm walking the course, and I'm thinking, wow. I go, this isn't quite what I thought it would be. Being the home of golf or whatever. But, it was a very cool place, very historic, as you know. I got to go over and play Carnoustie, which was quite a thrill on my off day. It was only 20 minutes away. And, of course, the Open was coming there later in '99, I believe. So I got over and got a sneak preview of playing there. And that was unbelievable. And now I know why they call it Carnoustie, because the day I played it was, and it ate my lunch. I mean, it was fun to go over there, and just at links golf, it's so different. People really don't understand. You have forced carried golf here in the United States for the most part, and links, as you know, it's played along the ground, and you got to have some great imagination. There you go, John Daly wins at a place where you got to have the imagination, you got to have the hands, you got to have the feel, and that was a great win for him to win at the home of golf. Yeah,
definitely. I want to get over there. Hopefully my dad and I can get over there someday and play. I think he's already been, but I did want to ask about one more random thing you got to do that was kind of cool. I think you got to caddy for Tony Romo in a PGA qualifier. How good of a golfer is he, in your opinion? And what was your experience with him?
Yeah, so that was interesting. So, obviously I lived in Dallas for 22 years and had some very good connections there over my time. And one of them happened to be connected with Romo. And every year, Tony would go try to qualify for the U.S. Open. And it was known that he was a very good player. I mean, he's like a +2, whatever. He's a very good player. But he never, I said to my buddy, I said, hey, I go, if Romo wants to try a tour caddy, I'm off that week. I'll be happy to go out and caddy for him. Romo says, all right. And he'd never met me or anything. So I went out again and I prepped the course. And, hadn't met him or anything, but I went out and did my due diligence, did my work, and met him at the course around, you play 18 holes and, you take a swing at it or whatever, but he gets there and I go up and talk to him, meet him. And I said, we're walking to the range, and here's this guy's quarterback. And he wasn't quite there yet, with the Cowboys, but you could see it was coming, he was getting there. So we get to the range and I go, hey, Tony, look, I got to tell you something. He goes, what's that? I go, look, I'm a Patriots fan. I'm a huge Brady fan. He was my favorite quarterback, but I go, today it's me and you. And he just looked at me and he kind of smiled. So the first hole he gets up and he drills it down the middle. I give him the yard. He's got like 100 yards left and he blades it over the green, chunks his chip, 3 putts for 6. Hands me the putter. I looked at him and said, it's a lot easier playing quarterback, isn't it? And he goes, you got that right. So we go to the next hole, and he par 5, dogleg right, smokes it down the middle, give him the number. He hits this thing, I don't know, about 30 versus eagle, taps in for birdie. How'd you like that? I go, let's go, pro. And anyway, we had a great time. Tony's very talented. I think that day he missed by a couple shots, but I really enjoyed watching him compete in a different aspect from the football field and golf. And as you've seen lately, I mean, he is a very good player. And better than average, obviously, and it's again proves just how hard it is to play for money. As good as Tony Romo is, when he does go out there and play, I mean, he beats a few people, but not like he does when he's going to play, other quarterbacks or me or you or whoever.
Sure. And even when I watched like the Reno Tahoe Open, you got guys like Steph Curry, who's a pretty good golfer too. But even then, there's a level of, them versus the pros.
Yeah, I mean, it's 1%, and people don't understand. It looks easy. I remember Jordan, when he got done basketball, he told Peter Jacobson, he says, "Hey, because I want to go out on tour." Peter looked at him, and again, he goes, "I want to go out. I want to play on the PGA Tour. What do I do?" So Peter says, "All right, here's what you got to do." Michael's a great player. Again, got his handicap. He's way down there. He's a low handicapper, but when it comes to playing for money, and when you only get one chance, it's not an easy game. After Price, he tried it. I mean, they've all tried it. Steph's a terrific player, and he goes out there and does really well. Actually, I mean, he might have a chance, on a little more, but he's been playing a long time. These other guys took up the game late. Jordan took it up late.
Right.
He does terrific. So yeah, it's a great sport. It keeps these guys competitive, and that's what makes it such a unique game.
Sure. For us people on the West Coast, kind of the mecca of golf is Pebble Beach. My dad and I got to go there in 2019 and walk the US Open. It was awesome. It was a great experience. And we've also played Torrey Pines as well, which is a little bit closer to me. But what are your thoughts on those two courses, more specifically Pebble Beach? Is it one of the meccas of golf as well?
Excuse me. Yeah, I love Pebble, to be honest with you. I mean, it's one of my favorites. I've caddied there. I think I was figuring 20 plus times or whatever, for the AT&T. And I was there that week you were there. We probably walked by each other.
Oh yeah.
That week. And yeah, I mean, Pebble is, tweaked it a little bit with a few of the holes or whatever, but it's still, it's on my list. It's on my bucket list to play. Now I've caddied there, but I haven't been able to play it. So I'm getting really close here to being able to get on there and play it. That's my next kind of thing to do with all the times I've caddied there. But yeah, I love it. I think it's tremendous. Torrey Pines, probably one of the best public courses you can go play. I mean, very hard, one of the hardest golf courses, honestly. It's not easy. I don't know. I mean, outside of the, obviously the prestigious reputation that I don't know if I'd want to play that course every day. It beats you on the head. I like the one next door, the other course that they played during the one right next to it, the North course. That's a lot more fun and more down my lane.
I agree. I think the South is way tougher than the North.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. But I mean, the one next door is fun to play. Like, it doesn't punk you on the head, and it's got some great views too. But that other one, you got to really have it going on to really play well. But again, great opportunity for the public. Makes it really cool. You can go where John Rahm hit his shot, and you can go practice it, and that really makes for a neat venue. And Torrey does a great job with both courses.
Outside of California, or maybe even other ones that you know of, what are some of your other favorite courses from being a caddy around, or just playing in general? Where do you think, if you're a golf fan or golf player, where do you need to go play around the country?
Well, my first choice on that is going to be Ireland. So I got to go to Ireland 2 years ago, and man, I went over there, and those courses were tremendous. I loved Ballybunion. They got two courses there. I got to play the main course twice. We booked it twice. It was tremendous, and loved the whole trip that we designed over there. That, again, different brand of golf. But if you haven't gone to Ireland and you haven't experienced, we only played in the southern part. We only played like 6 of the courses down there. Played Old Head. So Old Head, if you can imagine this, Old Head is Pebble Beach on steroids. So this course is out over the Atlantic Ocean. We played it that day in probably a 30 to 40 mile an hour wind with sun out, probably 50 degrees. And the caddy looked at me and goes, we were out here 2 weeks ago, and they called play in a tournament because it would be unplayable. I mean, the wind blows, but I'm out there. I go, I don't care what it's doing. Old Head is definitely somewhere you have to go and play golf for 4.5 hours. You just got to do it. I mean, it's an incredible place. So yeah, Ireland is close to my heart. I got some Irish blood in me from my mom's side, and I loved it over there, and I can't wait to get back. And I didn't even get up there by where they just played the Open. I didn't even get up to that part. I just did the southern part. So it was phenomenal. Waterville. Yeah, I mean, there's some great courses over there that you can play, and it's well over there.
I'm surprised you didn't say Scotland over Ireland.
Sorry. I mean, Scotland, I mean, obviously you've got, I got to play, as I said, Carnoustie, and I didn't get to play St. Andrews yet. Believe it or not, the course right next to St. Andrews, that's the one you want to play.
Right.
If you haven't been over there and you do go, you definitely got to put that one on your sheet for sure. But no, Ireland special. I just the people over there. I mean, the people are great at all places over there, but I just really enjoyed it over there.
Sure.
Just the way it is, and people are pretty laid back, and it was interesting. It really was for me to finally get over there. I wish I'd gotten over there sooner, but it's definitely top of my list.
And then what about in the U.S. courses that are some of your favorites?
North, LA North's one of my favorites. They just redid it, as you know. That's one of my top 3 or 4 that I've been able to be on. There's another course that not a lot of people know up in Santa Barbara called the Valley Club, another Mackenzie. It's incredible course that, again, you might not know about if you look it up, but it's one of Mackenzie's special places, and it's really cool golf course in Santa Barbara. You wouldn't even know where it is unless you get invited by a member and they tell you where the entrance is. But what a fantastic experience there. Fred Couples used to play there a lot when he lived up there. There's a lot of, it's Steve Pate. He had the course record there for a lot of years, but it's a tremendous course. And again, I was fortunate enough to even place at this point. So, I got really lucky one day to get on that and play that, and that is fabulous. And again, I'm kind of being consistent here with the Mackenzie courses, but if you find a Mackenzie course somewhere, it's hard for you not to really go play it and enjoy it. They're incredible.
So it was a little choppy. Sorry. So you said LA North. Is that LA Country Club?
Yes.
Okay.
Where they just had the Walker Cup or whatever. They just had courses there. And I'm pretty sure they call it LA North.
Okay.
But there is 36 holes there. And we got to play there every year before Riviera. The lady that did the stats for out on the tours, they were members, and they used to invite the caddies out because we used to get all the information on what the players had in their bags and all that, and used to invite us out there, and it was fantastic. And obviously, I love Riviera. I've never been able to play Riviera. I've caddied and had great experiences there. But again, there's so many good ones right under your nose in California. It's really hard to beat. There's a lot in the Northeast too. The list can go on and on. There's, this Cabot Lodge, or I think it's called Cabot Links, which is just built just in Canada up there. Incredible experience up there. I haven't been there. It's on my list again. But golf is just, it exploded, and there's so many great places to go. It's hard to see them all and play them all.
Yeah, no, for sure. Last couple questions here. As far as the U.S. finally won the Ryder Cup, it seems like the young golfers that are coming up now are all mostly Americans, and they were getting beat down for a while in the Ryder Cup for a long time. But it does seem like the future of golf for the U.S. is very bright. What are your thoughts on some of these young dudes coming up for the American side?
Yeah, they're tough. JT and Jordan Spieth, love Jordan Spieth, super nice guy. They're both great guys, and I just love their grit. Colin Morikawa.
Yeah, that guy's really good.
He's an incredible, not only an incredible player, but a super nice guy. And I know his caddy well, JJ Jakovic, great player in his own right. And the future is bright for the USA. A lot of depth going here, and it's going to be really interesting, because they haven't had great luck going across the ocean lately. So this next one's going to be really, really interesting to see how that goes. But I got a funny feeling that they've turned it up a notch, and they're going to be really right there. And I look for them to really be strong. A lot of depth, like you said, and tremendous players. And I know I'm leaving out a few here that coming to me, but you go down the top 10 in the world, and outside of John Rahm, the Americans are right there. I know haven't looked at the list of it, but I know he's number one, and I know Colin's trying to overtake him. So
Yeah.
it's deep. It's deep. And these guys, man, they got it. They got the grit, and they got that just that interior mental toughness. That's really what you need in those events. You got to be tough because you're going to take heat from the crowd and all that kind of thing. And you've got to be able to focus and maintain. And that's what the United States did this year. Steve Stricker did a great job bringing everybody together. You know, Koepka, obviously, great player. You know, DeChambeau played great even. I mean, all came together as one. And that's what you got to do in that event. You got to check your egos at the door and play for your, you know, your team. You got 11 other guys. And, you know, that's why it's a great event.
Sure. Who's your favorite player to watch right now?
I mean, for me, I mean, I really don't have a favorite. I'll be honest with you. I pull buddies. You know, my buddies are in the, you know, they're in the hunt or whatever. I'm pulling for them, you know, to do well. You know, they help me out with my with our family foundation, you know, as well as they're just friends. And I remember what it was like to be out there and have people pulling for you. So, I mean, I'm not going to say I really have a favorite. I'm just a golf junkie. I love watching golf, whether, you know, no matter what it is. And that's, you know, that's just, I watch it all that I can and stay up with it, even though I've been out of it now for, you know, almost 8 years or whatever regularly. I'm still right on top of it and keeping an eye on it. And yeah, you can learn something every day in golf. I don't care where you've been or what you've seen. Every day there's something there you can learn about golf.
You mentioned your foundation. I did want to ask you about that. So tell us about what's going on with that. I believe was it dedicated to your dad that you started it?
Yeah. My siblings, Melody and Maureen and John, we have 4 of us. You know, my dad was a pretty popular guy and he loved golf. And when he passed away 10 years ago, you know, some people said, hey, you know, you should have a golf tournament in your dad's honor. You know, his nickname was Action Andy. So, I mean, he loved to go out and play for whatever it was. You know, he liked to have something going. He was a competitive guy or whatever. And it you know, we kind of thought about it. You know, it's not an easy deal. We didn't really know what we were doing. We didn't have any, you know, we started with $0, but now, you know, we're doing really well. We're in our 10th year, but COVID's kind of kicked us in the chops for a couple of years. But, you know, we have a scholarship dedicated at my dad's high school. He was a 3-star ace there at Portland High School. And we have a student athlete scholarship with $10,000 that we award annually for secondary education. So we've had 7 winners. We just had our first female winner the last time, and we're getting ready to award again this year. We're getting back up after it. We have the Action Andy Classic, which is where we raise our money. And then the second thing we have is I have a Pro Tour Caddy Day, where I bring my caddy friends in, and they actually, you know, have a sponsor, and he brings his friends in, and they play with the tour caddies for a day, and they make a donation to the foundation. So
nice.
Yeah, we're a 501 public charity, and I mean, it's been amazing. We're now endowed too, so we've come a long way from 2012. We're doing really well for a small nonprofit. But we love it. We love giving back, and we love to support. You know, not only that scholarship, but we also support the local Boys and Girls Club, and we also give a Maine State Golf Association scholarship award in my dad's honor as well. So, you know, he loves sports. We love sports, and we're trying to give back, and hopefully, you know, get some other kids involved, and you know, they can carry the torch.
That's awesome, man. So, congrats on that. Is the tournament back in Maine? You're not living in Maine anymore, though, right?
Nope, I'm not. I live in Vancouver, Washington, but it's always in Maine. It's always in the Portland area. We have it at some different courses back there, but I go back there, you know, 3 or 4 times a year, and we manage it regardless. It doesn't matter. I haven't lived there since we started the thing, but my sister lives there. My brother's close in New Hampshire. My sisters both live in the area, and we have a great board of directors. So yeah, we put on the tournament, and it's a great deal, and it's a great day. We raise some great scholarship money for these young kids that want to, you know, go on in life, and whether they play sports or not, we want to support them and help them, you know, chase their dreams.
That's awesome, man. I'll let you plug it in 1 second. Questions just keep coming up for me. Last thing, I want to ask you about the Maine Hall of Fame. So what did that mean to you to go into the Maine Golf Hall of Fame?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I was totally surprised. I had no idea. It never really entered my mind. And I was caddying down at the Deutsche Bank, which, used to be the Deutsche Bank down. And all of a sudden, I go, hey, Andy, I look over and it's my golf coach from high school. And he looks at me, he goes, hey, he goes, I just want to let you know. He goes, I'm nominating you for the Maine Golf Hall of Fame. And I looked at him and I was like, what? And I honestly, I mean, it came to me as a complete surprise. I mean, it's a great honor and a great privilege, to be, in one of the inductees. I mean, it started in 1993. I guess we're in, what it was, 28th year now going on. But it was a thrill, and it was really a day that I'll always remember. I was thankful that my parents were both alive and they got to see it. And it was a neat day. And being in Maine and growing up in Maine, Fluff Cowan, he was the first caddy to go in. Obviously, Fluff's from the Winslow area, and I'm the second one to go in. So we got two guys that caddied on the PGA Tour that are in that Hall of Fame. Who'd have thought it? I mean, honestly, growing up, it was basically a dream come true, really, and a great honor, and I cherish that.
That's awesome, man. Well, congrats on that. I know it's been a while since you got inducted, but that's still really cool. Okay, now tell us if we can find out about the foundation and golfmastery.net, all that stuff.
So the foundation is the LanoFamilyFoundation.org. We're under construction right now as the website goes, but we'll have it back up running to golfmastery.net. That's 25 years of me putting, what I've learned walking next to and golfers in the world. It's try to basically kind of bring that to one place and try to offer some folks some options on where they want to go with golf. What do they want to do with it? I've been there, I've seen the best, and I've got some great ideas for them, for anyone that's interested, and there's lots of options there. So basically just trying to give back to the game of golf. I mean, I've been fortunate, golf's been great to me, and I want to give back and try to share wisdom and knowledge that I've learned in 25 years traveling worldwide on the PGA Tour.
Sure. No, that's awesome. Any advice for amateur golfers? Any basic things that we should know to get better or focus on?
I mean, my big thing is muscle memory. Okay, so if you really want to get good at golf, then you're going to have to dedicate some time to practice. And that's just the bottom line. I mean, I promise you, if you do that, you will get better. Now, if you have 3 kids and you got a job and it's one day, couple of days a week, that's fine too. But I'm saying if you really, really want to get good, it's about repeating and muscle memory. So if you get the proper instruction and you get the basic fundamentals and you go and put that time in, I promise you're going to lower your handicap.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's all about putting the work in. I appreciate it. Andy, Drano, Lano, thank you very much for being on the show, man. Great insight, great stories. I really appreciate having you on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate, Too Tall Sports, man. I love the name. And I, again, appreciate the time, the offer to come on and share, some of my stories and hopefully we can meet sometime.
Let's do it, man. I'd love to play golf with you at some point. I know you're in Washington. I'm in California, but hey, if you come down here, I got family up in Washington too, so we can do it.
For sure. Yeah. Love to do it. Love to do it for sure.
Sounds great.
All righty. Thank you.
My thanks to Andy Lano, aka Drano. Man, what a great episode. That was awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed that and got as much out of it as I did. You rarely get to hear the inside track on the PGA Tour and the stories and all that stuff. So that was really cool. I'm happy to have Andy on. That was great. And I hope you guys liked it as well. As always, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. That's on Instagram. On Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. Check out the YouTube channel. Every Thursday, we drop episodes, Thursday mornings, 5 a.m. Just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast. You'll find the page. If you haven't already, subscribe, like, share, rate, review, comment, all those things. Do it all. That'd be great for the show. And also on Apple and Spotify, hit the 5-star. When you see my page, I remind you at the beginning of every episode. I'll do it again now. It's really simple. You're already there. So if you're on Apple or Spotify, find those 5 stars on the page. You might have to scroll down for Apple and find them, but you will find them. Just hit the 5-star if you could and leave a review. That would be awesome to help the show. And we're also on Pandora, Amazon Music, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts. We're there. Just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast. Thank you guys for listening as always. And I hope you have a great day. I'll see you next week for another great episode. Have a good one.